Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Proof Talks, where we unpack real world expertise through the stories, decisions, and lessons that shape professional judgment. I'm your host, Ashley Smith. Today's conversation starts with a situation many talented professionals will recognize. Someone has the skill, the training, and the ability to help people, but their business still isn't turning those strengths into consistent clients, confidence, or momentum. Today, I'm joined by Jeanne Omlor, a business strategist, multi-seven-figure online business coach, and certified servant leadership executive coach, whose company has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, and service-based professionals grow their businesses online. Jeanne's own story is part of what makes her perspective so interesting. She built her business from scratch as a solo parent while deep in debt and went on to reach million-dollar revenue numbers in just 17 months. In this conversation, we're going to unpack how that experience now informs her work with clients, including one executive coach who came to her with one client, serious uncertainty, and a business that wasn't yet reflecting the value of her expertise. We'll talk about what Jeanne saw, what was really holding the business back, and what guidance helped create the shift, and what other experienced professionals can learn from that kind of diagnostic work. Jeanne, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to Proof Talks.
Hey, Ashley, great to be here.
So I would love if you could help the audience understand a bit about your point of view, a bit of your origin story. I don't usually do that on the show, but I think that where you've come from and the things you had to work through are so directly related to the types of challenges your clients deal with. How you bootstrapped and your scrappy efforts early on have helped you see, where to spot blind spots and how to drive momentum quick. So let's dive a little bit into that origin story of yours.
For sure. So, when you were speaking about what I did and the intro you did, I started thinking and having visions of all this complexity and layers. And I feel like most business people build a lot of complexity just for the sake of it because they believe that that's what they're supposed to do and it makes them smart. And I realized after a while that actually what's smart is to strip everything down and to really make things as simple as possible. And when you get, as you go through life, you do realize that the true masters are the people that can simplify everything. Like the best speakers are the people that don't use words that only one person in the audience understands because it makes them sound smarter. So how did I get here? Well, it was a while. I've been coaching for 14 years now, and I had my first 8-year flush. I say that on purpose because you don't just start something and immediately get successful unless you're one of my clients. But, I didn't have coaches like me. But the reason why I think it took me longer than I wanted is because I couldn't find coaches and mentors that had this revolutionary idea that I have that we can shortcut stuff. Because people always say, no, you can't shortcut stuff. Well, actually you can. Because if you are learning from people and they're distilling years of experience and just packaging it and funneling it into, you are going to save time. So that's the first thing. How did this happen? Well, 7 years ago, I'd already been a coach for 8 years. I realized I had the classic business problem, which is great offer, wrong market. I'd moved to the Midwest. When I was in New York, I was getting clients. I moved to the Midwest, and people just in certain parts of the Midwest, they don't want to invest in their businesses or anything. And I realized this isn't going to work. And I didn't feel a lack of confidence in what I do or did. I saw it for what it was, which was great offer, wrong market. Like ice to Eskimos, wrong market. I realized I had to do something because I didn't know about online work. So to cut it long story short, I woke up one morning and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in deep debt. I'm 54 years old. My daughters are going to notice that at some point. What do? I've got to turn this around because I have to, because I can't get a job as a solo parent of 2. I thought, wow, Jeanne, you need to get online. And a voice in my head said, if not now, when? And I started thinking, that's right. If not now, when? And that's a real question people do not ask themselves. They just go, if not now, when? No, really, if not now, when? I thought, okay, that's it. I have to do this. I hired the first coaching company I could find because I realized nothing is perfect. I thought, I've just got to do some high ticket thing, plonked down 10K on 3 different credit cards and thought I was going to learn Facebook ads. The ads were not a good idea. They were not going to work, and I was aware of that. So I asked the people, what do I do? This isn't going to work. And they said, do organic. And I literally said, what? Like carrots. I didn't know what organic marketing was. The rest is history. I got really good at it, started getting clients, and that was the hallelujah.
So fast forward, you're working with, I mean, you have a full, robust team, a bunch of different offers, and you work with a variety of different types of strategists or coaches, including executive coaches. And I know there's one in particular who's recently had a pretty significant really impactful transformation, not just on her career, but probably on her life. Can we talk a little bit about where she started and what she's doing now? And then I'd love to dive into maybe some of the key sort of signals you saw that said to you, okay, this person really's got what it takes, but just is not doing the right things.
Right. Okay. So I'd love to talk about the KPIs, the key performance indicators. So this person came to me. She had spent $75,000 on a 4 month, I guess it was, she got certification, and then she owed another 75 because that's how they do it for branding, which I don't really understand. But anyway, she came to me and she said, I need you. I've gotten a couple of clients and I don't know how to do this. And I do not want to go back and get a job because we've already invested this much. I don't want to do this. I said, great, let's do this. She came in for a year and we coached her because I have a coaching team. I don't have that many people working with me. I have 4 other coaches, and we are a tight knit team. In the first 2 months, we got her to over $200,000. I helped her sell her first $240,000 a year client. And then she kept going. And month 9, she was at 430. I remember that. And then she just finished the year and she had got more clients. I'm not exactly aware of the exact number, because I haven't asked her the exact number yet, but it's at least $500,000 in what was kind of her first year of coaching, because she'd been doing it a couple months or so before she met me. Now, you asked a good question. How did this happen? Well, first of all, what I've understood is the longer you do something, the better you get. So our team has gotten so good at what we do that our results are getting better and better. They're not just stagnant. And I thought the other day, wait a minute, how is this getting better? And I thought, well, of course it's getting better, because we are just getting, you do progress as coaches. And that's reflected when you're helping people. Otherwise, you're not learning new things and it's just stagnant. And I have learned new things and I'm always learning new things, and so are my coaches. So that's one of the things, is you do get better and you can condense more. And it's not just the strategy, but it's a life experience. Now, a little word about that. I've come to value experience far more than I used to, because I see in myself that does matter. And a lot of people think it doesn't matter. You can still be good at something. I mean, look at my client. She didn't have a lot of experience and she was getting a lot of coaching clients and still is. But I do know in 10 years, she's going to be more masterly at the actual coaching, because she will get better and better and better. We just helped her show up and bring the money in. She's good at what she does, but of course she's going to be way better in 10 years. So the other KPI is that she performed. She did the work. She listened. She paid attention, and she did not tweak things before doing it. So this is what people do. They hire somebody that's an expert, i.e. us, okay, because we have experience, and they come in, but they want to do exactly what they were doing before they met us. And in that case, why did they hire us? And why do we hire people? Like, why do you hire why do you hire a top workout coach, let's just say, or trainer? Because you believe that they know something. But if you go and get worked out by that person and they go, okay, lift it this way. And you go, no, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to do it this way. Why did you hire them in the first place? And also, you probably injure yourself with the weights. So she did everything we said, And she said to me, why would I tweak something that has been proven to work hundreds of times? That would be dumb. I thought that was amazing. Now, you do tweak and test after you try what has been working, because sometimes things might work better for one person or another. But the first thing you've got to do is just do exactly what the masters tell you. And if it's worked for most people, then you wouldn't want to tweak that. And this is what happens with a lot of people. And this is in jobs, this is coachees, this is all sorts of people. people tend to tweak stuff as soon as they get it to go back to where they already are when the whole point was to get somewhere new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm wondering if, I mean, obviously that's such a core thing. When you meet a new potential client and you're assessing their situation and they're telling you where they're at, like if there's somebody listening to this right now and
Mm,
they're like, this sounds kind of like me. Like I've invested time and money and I'm now like getting myself into debt rather than seeing the success that I want. What am I going
yeah.
to do? Am I going to succeed? Are there key things that you look for to see, okay, this person is going to make it, or key things that suggest to you, like, I don't know? Or is it simply they just agreed to, they're just not compliant, but they're like, they just are willing to do the recommended work?
Well, that's a really great question because we're actually very picky about who we work with, not because we're snobs, but because we want to make sure that when people pay us, it will work. It's a feeling about their personality, whether they will actually do the work and if they're not gritty, I can usually tell that they just expect to do one thing and it's going to bring oodles of money pouring on their head. That's just not a realistic outlook about anything. So if they have this la la land thing that, you have to study really hard when you're in college and you have to practice really hard if you're a musician or, an athlete, but business is different and it just falls on your head. I see that. I really do not understand where that came from, but there are a lot of people that think that way. And I'm scratching my head. Who's going around telling everybody starting a business should be easy and it's not like anything else you've ever done in your life, that you do not have to work or practice or put the hours in? That's just my pet peeve. So there are several things, and you're going to laugh at one of them. One of them is I have to see they have a sense of humor. Why? Because I want to have fun when I work, and I have a sense of humor. Yes, we are serious about it. Yes, it's strategy. Yes, we are going to be coaching people and you know be behind them. But you've got to have a sense of humor to work with us because we have a sense of humor. We're not goofy. We're not goofing around. But I think it really is a good coaching tool to have a sense of humor because people can be stressed. And if you can disarm the people you're working with and show them, life does not have to be dreary and you can have fun coaching, then it's just better. We were on my group call, was it 2 days ago? And everybody was cracking up at something I said. And when you are relaxed, you can actually absorb more than being all stressed out. Like, oh my gosh, this is so serious. Is it serious when people pay you a chunk of money to help them? Absolutely. We take that seriously. So several things I look for, probably three. Number one, will they do the work? Number two, do they have a sense of humor? And number three, are they going to be pleasant to work with? Because if they're not going to be pleasant to work with, again, I like having a nice life. And there's nothing worse than working with a client that just their agenda is just to make problems. And, we've all had clients like that. You probably have. And life is too short for that. And whether it's short or not, even if life is too long for that, because we're going to live longer, I don't want to live that way. I want people to come in and really be successful and really want to be successful, be open to the coaching and be coachable and do the work. Now, if they're not perfect human beings, which nobody is, that's okay because we have a mindset coach. We know that people aren't going to come in and just be perfect. Sometimes they're fine and then they might have like a dip in the mindset. We're good. That's just being human. That doesn't mean they're not, that they're unpleasant or they're not doing the work. So if you're doing the work and you're pleasant to work with and you're coachable and you really want it and have a sense of humor, we're good. The other thing is high achievers. We only work with high achievers. So a lot of our clients are coming out of corporate or they've been coaching for a while or they're new, but they're still in corporate or something like that. But usually they're coming out of something else that they have done that's been successful. Usually now, because I've narrowed my market down. The other thing we work with, and I don't know if you knew this, we work with ultra high net worth individuals and founders, exiting founders. I have a very high end offer, and I only have two offers now: one for coaches, consultants, fractionals, and a few lawyers in there actually, and then the very high end. So we're very focused. And coming to that, I feel like some people have too many offers, and it's confusing for their market.
When you're working with your clients, like for example, this one we're speaking about who had such a wild uh, successful transformation in such a short period of time. How far into that process do you typically find yourself when you're like, aha, this person's gonna do it? And like
Yeah.
what kind of sparks that lets you know you see that future for that client and you know it's going in the right direction? And I guess what I'm trying to unpack is clearly with this client that's happened.
Mm.
But then on the flip side, I'm curious, like if there are points, midway as you're working with people, you're like, yeah, okay, I know this is just not going the way we had initially
Mm. Well,
thought.
it's not an all or nothing, and I think we have to change our mindset to not be so linear and also not be in the sense of Democrat or Republican. I lived in other countries for many years of my life, and I've realized that Americans in general are very black and white people. I mean, I can be very like that, it's with your principles, sure, be black and white. However, we're dealing with human beings here. And even though we like to put labels on people and put them in boxes, human beings are human beings and people are different. So somebody might come in and, one thing is when people come in and they onboard and they just start doing the work, that's usually a really good sign. Okay. However, I have had a couple people that came in and they really onboarded, but their personality was do that sprint, but then kind of like not do the work. So it's not always an indicator. And I've been surprised sometimes that some people have really come in to do the work, but then they didn't really continue doing the work long enough. They're all successful in the program, but it wasn't the vast success that I thought they were going to have. But it's all good because working with us, we have all sorts of fail safes that you can't lose money working with us. However, it just depends. Now, some people start off slow because that's the personality, and that's okay. I see their personality. They're serious. They're sort of absorbing it. But sometimes those people, they're the people that then will gain momentum like a rolling snowball. So the answer is it depends. And I'm always in a state of observation with my clients because if you're not, you're more or less in a state of judgment. So we wouldn't let them in if we weren't 100% convinced that it's going to work. So we're already starting with that. We're not just taking anybody in. So we already have a very high bar for even letting them in. So now our job is so much easier because nobody comes into my program and just doesn't do the work now. Years ago, that did happen when I had a different market, which was sort of like all coaches and consultants.
If you're finding somebody's maybe hit a wall or is frustrated or maybe having, which we all do, as you said, like
Mm.
challenges with mindset from time to time, what kind of questions might you ask them? Like, how do you draw out the best of them when they need that push? Like, what kind of things? How do you frame those harder moments?
We have a mindset coach on my team. So I will do some mindset, but I'm big on having experts. So she is the mindset coach. Sometimes I'll help with it, and sometimes I'll say, I think you should book a call with Shannon. So, or yesterday, or it's today actually, one of my clients was having a little bit of a mind. I could see it coming, and I said, book a call with this coach because he's really good at that. And she said, okay, thanks. So it's really just about the communication. What are the questions? It's funny. I saw this guide and people love writing guides. Again, things are not that simple, yet they are. Well, simple as far as strategy. I saw this guide of questions to ask your clients. And I just thought most of those questions were absolute hogwash because I've been doing this
Mhm.
14 years. And some guy that, they like creating white papers and brochures and PDFs, right? A bunch of those PDFs are just made for the sake of marketing. And you really need to ignore a lot of the stuff that you see online because a lot of it really is written by people that have no idea. And I thought, for a lark, I'll read the questions. I thought these questions are so coachy. And I use that word. It's like when I was an actress, I called it like, it's so acty. These actors that, well, I'm an actor. And I'm not like, oh, I never liked that side of the industry of acty talk. Well, I'm an actress, so blah, blah, blah. It just seemed so fake to me. So there's this whole thing with some coaches where I call it coachy. That's coachy language. You know, what do you need to be to, oh my gosh, just, we can really use better language that is just simple language without all the filler that's thrown in to sort of sound coachy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's not, it's I definitely. I mean, I see it. I see it Online. I see it, especially now, as like a lot of content that's being created is being,
Mm.
supported through AI, and
Mhm.
you see a lot, the AIs are picking up the jargon and the language too, right? And so
Yeah.
we're seeing it a lot more in various sectors, various business fields, like the words that are starting to show up that that person was not using in any sort of way like 2 years ago, right?
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's it is, and I think what I'm hearing from you is that there's some universal truths, but at the same time, when you're working with people, it's very specific and personal and like dependent on their own situation. What I wonder a little bit about is do you ever spot people that are like, oh man, this person's great, like maybe out in the wild? I'm curious about if there's a spark or a certain quality of people that that they're not quite achieving what they are capable of.
Mhm.
And what
Yeah.
does that look like to you?
I have a nose for that. Like,
Mhm.
literally, people are astounded at how intuitive I am about that because with experience, the intuition gets better. I can look at somebody's LinkedIn account and usually tell that they're not doing what they wanna do. And when they meet with me, they say, "How do you know that?" I say, "Well, it's a feeling, but it's also this sign here." And there are a lot of it's sort of like being a Sherlock Holmes for this. There's a lot of little signs that people aren't seeing that they're putting out themselves, which is not bad. But there's certain things that highly successful people would not have on their LinkedIn. Or it's a mood, or it's just looking at their face and the expression. And I can see some underlying pain even though they're smiling. So it's a lot of things, and it's really funny you asked that because nobody asked me that. It is not just a linear thing we're doing. I'm using a lot of intuition, but out in the wild, I mean, I don't really network at all. So the wild for me is meeting people on LinkedIn, which we only market on LinkedIn now because that's where high achievers are. But it's interesting and it's sad that most coaches and consultants are having to show the world that they're successful because people probably wouldn't work with them if they weren't. That's legitimate. But you can see that they're faking it till they make it, which I've always really abhorred that because I think we shouldn't be faking anything because it's not faking to put your best foot forward. It's not a fake. Same thing as I don't believe in imposter syndrome. It just doesn't exist because how could somebody be an imposter of themselves? Unless you're pretending that you're somebody else, which is not what they're talking about. When they say about imposter syndrome, who are you being an imposter of? I never really understood that, and I think that's another catchphrase.
It
Really,
is, yeah.
simply that is this you lost confidence, right? If we are gonna be really simple and direct. So I always really work hard to distill language down into simple, non catchphrase language. I feel that that is what builds authority, is when you're not using catchphrases. Because if you clear all that out, what's behind it? Often there's nothing behind that. So if you get into a habit of just speaking plainly, like, there is a value of speaking, in the old days, they say, please speak plainly. That's what they mean. Just stop all the bells and whistles and running around and going around in circles because human beings value, and I hate this word, authenticity, but I can't think of any other way to say it, and that's another word people say nonstop is, "Oh, it's so authentic," but they're how can I put this? People love down to earth people that are not trying to use language, and also it's exhausting to have to speak and be thinking of those strange words you have to use. I find that I probably use a lot less energy because I just say what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I am curious, since we have a few minutes, because you touched on it with the fractional, especially like the C-suite type of fractional, the change in the landscape, the professional landscape over the last 5 years is just incredible and scary and exciting and all of the things. And I know I've seen a number of these like senior executives who are like, maybe they thought they were going to be retiring in the next few years. Like, I really love this idea of like taking my chops and going
Mm,
out and setting up I've been an employee maybe my whole life, and having my own business, and having maybe two or three clients as a fractional senior person. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you're just kind of seeing. Like we don't have to go in any sort of direction, but when these folks, let's call them, I'm assuming 50 and up, who've got a history of accomplishment, and now they're thinking of going into this new kind of direction. What are their assumptions that maybe aren't quite right as they're moving into a new lane? What are their
Mm.
fears, or what are they most excited about? Like, I'd love to know just what you're seeing, because you're talking to so many of these people. Whereas I think for so many of us, it's like it's a bit one off, or we see it, just online.
No, for sure. You're correct. We see, because I just speak to thousands of people. First of all, it's not 50 and up. It's
Okay.
younger.
Okay.
It's
Hmm.
40 and definitely 50 and up, but it's 40s, even 40s, late 40s, but even younger. And it doesn't have to be that they, uh, no, actually 30s sometimes. Yeah. Some of my clients are in their late 30s or early 30s or even some 20s. So I don't want to put an age on it. I just want to say a lot of people are losing their jobs. That's a fact. They're being laid off, and in all industries. And my message, first of all, let's start with my message. The message is, if people knew that they could start their own business, and that they could use their expertise and package it and make money off that and be free, because entrepreneurship is freedom. You just need to make money with it. Okay. So it's, you can have freedom, but you do have to make it work, right? Because many businesses fail, but that's something that people don't understand. You can package your knowledge, especially if you've done something really amazing in the corporate world. And some people have actually done a lot of peer-to-peer coaching in the corporate world. So that can be packaged. It's valuable. And if you know how to market that, that's the key. But many people have this idea. Oh, I love that they do. And again, the misconception is all I need to do is put a shingle up. That is the biggest misconception in business, actually. Again, the same thing. All I need to do is put a shingle up, and people are just naturally going to hear from me or about me. Or, I was in corporate and I know these, 100 or 200 people, and I'm just going to get clients for the rest of my life. That's the biggest misconception, that they are not aware of what marketing is. And it's not complex. Marketing is not complex. It's really four tenets of marketing that I teach my clients. It's once you know those, I mean, you're good, because you realize, okay, it's that simple. There's a lot of marketing books that are written to sell marketing books. That's the reason they're written. And they create all these frameworks, which are just very artificial frameworks. I've heard so many frameworks, and it makes me laugh because I think, oh, there's another framework somebody made up to use, 5 S's of how to create a business. You've heard that, or the 5 P's or the 7 T's or whatever they're doing, or the 9 P's, because it's always planning, productivity, blah, 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 passion. My mind is reeling, and sometimes I'm like, wow, it is not that difficult. Really, what the misconception is, either A, I could never do that, or B, I will do it, and all I got to do is put a shingle up. That's the two things. When the reality is, if you have insight and you have expertise and you learn how to market it, that's the answer.
It feels like maybe there's the polarized like assumptions. One that thinks it's easier than it is, and some folks that maybe think it's harder than it really is to enter this sort of a thing.
Right. And then they do. And also, people think if they go on ChatGPT, that ChatGPT is a coach. And I've actually tested ChatGPT on many occasions just to see what it says. And I asked, like, how would I get clients? And it gave me this really bad advice. Okay. Then my ChatGPT kind of knows what I do now. And I was like, gee, XYZ. I forgot I named my ChatGPT at one point. I forgot. But the point is, it was this old fashioned advice to build your email list and to do this stuff that was very not how to get a client. And I said, well, that's not going to get a client in any, oh, but that's what you need to do. You need to build blah, blah, blah. So the problem is, people are going on ChatGPT. They're looking at all sorts of, and some of it's okay, but you're getting many different people with many different points of view saying, you got to do this and you got to post 100 million videos every day all over the place and you're just going to get clients. You got to do all this. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to post because we tell people to post. I'm saying that going and doing a bunch of busy work, and a lot of people come to me and say, I am working, and they laugh. They go, I'm working 8 hours a day and I have no clients. And I said, ah, because they've understood that what they're doing is just creating some sort of job where they get up and they feel busy in the day, but it's not actually getting clients. You need to look at the fastest path to cash, and you got to do that. And later on, you do the building when you have a luxury of spending a bit of time that's not on the most important, the Steve Covey, like the actions that are the business building activities. Those have to be the priority, not the fluff in the background of becoming an influencer. And I feel also with some people, not all, a lot of people coming from corporate, they know they need to make money and they don't care about all that. But then and we don't have clients like that, actually. We have clients that want to build a business and they really don't care about being an influencer. Some of them want to be speakers. We have a much more serious crowd now, but literally there are so many people out there pumping content out that there's not enough. Put it that way.
Mhm.
Not enough to say, hey, I'm going to pump content and people are going to run to me. There's a little bit of narcissism involved, if you believe that, I believe.
Well, I could chat with you for another hour, but I gotta let you go. I really appreciate this opportunity to unpack what you do and how you help people and how your own personal entrepreneurial journey took you to where you're at. I'm wondering if you have any parting words for the audience. Maybe people who are in that kind of position, people who are feeling like, okay, I'm halfway started or I'm stuck
Mm.
and like how to self-assess if they're ready to maybe make a change. What would your parting words be with them?
The parting words are, if you have a desire to create something and you're a professional, why wouldn't you get help to create that? And if you aren't willing to get help, then do you want it that much? And if you aren't willing to take any risk at all out of any kind of so-called comfort zone, then maybe you don't want it that much. And if you don't want it that much, it's never going to work because you do need to put some serious energy and time. You can't half want to do something and make it work. So the question is always, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I want X, Y, Z? And when you answer that for yourself, the answer tells you it. If the answer is, well, a 5, stop whatever you're doing. That is not enough. That's neutral. Okay.
Mhm.
If it's a 7 because I'm really scared, but I really want it, well, that means it's because you're worried about all sorts of things. But I would, so that's that. But I would just say that I live by the maxim, if not now, when? Because when you actually ask yourself that, if not now, when, question mark, dot, 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 and you really think about that, life continues. We're not getting any younger, any of us. It's not because, I'm older than other people. Seize the day, right? This is a cliche, but it's sort of the same thing. If not now, when are you going to do it? There is no when in the future that's going to be perfect, and there's going to be no clearing in the woods. None of us have lives where there's like 5 months where we got nothing planned. Not one of us. Would you agree on that?
Yeah. It's like constant overwhelm, I think.
I mean, we just have to do stuff, right? Even if you just, you know, I call it getting the foot in the door. Just mark your territory. Just stick the foot in the door, and at least the doors are not closing on you. And then you took one step, and then you slowly ease that door open because it's not all or nothing. That's the thing. So
Putting it in the calendar, like that does
just,
seem to be a
yeah,
huge difference maker.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great thing to leave, I think, this on. I will, Jean, I'm going to be putting your website and your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. I'm also going to include your YouTube channel, which, by the way, people, if this has resonated with you, check it out. She's got an incredible YouTube channel with lots of great conversations that she's had. Is there anywhere else that I should forward people to or connect? Like, where's the best place for people
Sure. The
to
best
connect with
place
you?
is go to jeanneomlor.com/reviews.
Cool. I'll make sure that's linked too, so people can go there because I think that gives a really good indication and understanding of the type of work you're doing. So, Jean, thank you so much for joining us on Proof Talks. If you're listening on audio, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, share. Everybody have a wonderful day. And until next time, Proof Talks, where we unpack real life expertise.